Hello, good morning everyone. Very warm welcome to babycode free IELTS tip sessions. I'm Tanu Vimani, an IDP certified trainer and a TEFL and TESOL certified trainer. So as you know that we are covering up our tips part. So today's tip is about speaking module. So I'm going to provide you some tips like how you can ace your IELTS speaking test without overdoing it. Do not ever overdo in your speaking test. And these 6 tips are very vital for your speaking part, right? So let's look at, but the candidates who are watching this session for the first time, please go back to the baby code IELTS tips classes so that you can watch all the tips for reading, writing, and listening module also. So as you know, the speaking test is for 11 to 15 minutes and it's an in-person interview format between the IELTS examiner and the test taker. So in 15 minutes, later will be asked a series of questions so that they can assess your ability to hold a proper conversation. Now you're gonna might ask yourself that how hard can be a speaking test for you. So it may be one of the simple parts, but don't be fool about it. It's easy to get carried away without proper preparation. Now, if you want to learn how to stay focused on the task at hand and not to go overboard, here are 6 useful tips to keep in mind that will help you ace your speaking test. Now, 6 tips to ace your IELTS speaking test without overdoing. The very first tip is focus on your experience. Now, as tempting as it may seems to make stories, now you might feel tempting that yes, you are making stories, and you may want to stick to sharing your personal experience as much as possible. Some test taker, they may slip in a little white lie or elaborate backstory about their background to appear more interesting to the examiner, while there is not an official rule against it. Fabricating phony stories does not increase your score. It's a speaking test, not a personality test after all. So instead, use your personal interests and unique life experiences to make your conversation as natural as possible. Doing this allows you to focus more on your pronunciation and intonation rather than forming a story itself. Second tip is don't worry about your examiner's opinion. Now, when you're conversing with your examiner, it's easy to overanalyze their body language and responses also, which eventually leads to overthinking what they think about you, right? So, test takers, they need to remember that this is not an attack on your opinions or beliefs. Examiners are after, like, they are only checking, they are only assessing your use of language and how well you demonstrate your speaking ability. So, it's perfectly normal for examiners to interrupt test takers and mid sentence, like in the mid sentence, to ask you additional questions and take the conversation even further. So don't worry too much about examiner's opinion of you. All you need to focus is on yourself and your delivery. That means your speech, right? Tip number 3 is don't over rehearse, be conversational. Now, trying to memorize perfectly crafted answer is not the best strategy to ace the IELTS speaking test. Doing so might leave you sounding like you are a monotonous robot and you're reading off a script. So, do not craft your memorized answer. Examiners are very trained, they are highly trained so that they can spot memorized answers, which never bodes well for test taker. So scripted answers don't give examiners an accurate gauge of your ability that you're communicating in English and which eventually leads to the lower scores of yours. So instead, make use of what you already know and don't be afraid to be conversational, right? Speaking test is probably the only examination where you can afford to be more casual and lighthearted. So just take an advantage of it. Tip number 4, use your anxiety to score better. Now, this speaking test is really talked about but sometimes your nerves may be the key to secure better scores. Getting mental block is completely normal for test takers. So rather than being paralyzed by it, why not take advantage of it? Right? So instead of just staying silent or using away too many fillers, take a pause. Consider using native phrases. In the last session, I taught you about how you can use different phrases instead, like your filler words. So I'm sorry, my mind just went blank. Or you can say that I'm not really sure, but if I had to say. So these simple sentences, they can demonstrate your flexibility and your use of other language resources effectively, right? So use your anxiety, your phrases, a better native phrases so that you can score better. Tip number 5, don't ever, or you can say don't over agree with the examiner if you have different opinions. Now, what some test takers or student believe is that the best way to score is by constantly agreeing with anything or everything the examiners say. But on the contrary, this is not the case. Just because you have different views from your examiner doesn't mean the conversation is any less engaging. At the end of the day, try to impress the examiner by sharing the same thoughts as them will never get you high scores. So it's about how you carry a conversation whilst demonstrating coherence, your grammar, and your pronunciation. So if you happen to disagree with any of the statements, think of a way to acknowledge it in the respectful manner, right? So don't over agree with the examiner if you have different opinion. Tip number 6, don't fake a native accent or slang. Now, some students with strong and native accents that are local to their home country, don't worry about being penalized for it. Having a natural accent or slang will not have any effect on your test score. But if you don't have an accent whatsoever, please don't try to fake one. Test takers will not be evaluated for how interesting they sound or their ability to successfully carrying out a unique accent. The accent doesn't matter in exam. All you have to do is to focus on the components, which will be actually assessed, like including your fluency, your grammar, your pronunciation of your conversation, right? So if you want to ace IELTS speaking test, you can ace it with the babycode application. We have a live speaking test here, right? So do complete your speaking test. Take multiple tests in a day for speaking. It's hardly 15 minutes. And the key to ace the speaking test is to have or to strike the perfect balance between adequate preparation and simply being yourself. Don't overdo, right? Your goal is to sound natural as possible, right? And don't overdo it. So keep practicing, keep learning, and watch your IELTS journey. So I hope in the journey to conquer your IELTS exam, our live sessions can be a game changer for you. So stay tuned for more strategies and sample answers to ace your exam, and you can boost your IELTS score. And do practice for your speaking test with these speaking tips. Okay, bye bye, take care.